You've probably handled a check before, right? They seem pretty straightforward. But what if the one in your hand has a hidden history, a story of fraud or theft that can make it totally worthless? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the powerful legal shield that was built to protect you from exactly that.
So imagine this. You just finished a huge project, and you get paid with a check. You're heading to the bank feeling fantastic. But what you don't know is that the check was stolen before it ever got to you. Suddenly, your hard-earned money is at risk. This is a huge problem, right? Well, to solve this very issue, the law came up with a kind of special, protected status.
You see, in the world of commerce, instruments like checks are passed around from one person to the next. But if somewhere along that chain of hands, the title gets, well, tainted, maybe through theft or fraud or some illegal deal, that defect travels with it. It's like a poison that can ruin the entire transaction for the next innocent person in line.
And this is where we meet the two main characters in our story. On one side, you've got just a holder. This person has the check, sure, but they're completely exposed to any of its past problems. They inherit a flawed title. But on the other side, we have our hero, the holder in due course, or as we'll call it, the HDC. This person is legally shielded, protected from those past issues, and they get a brand new, squeaky clean title.
So, what does it take to become this hero, the holder in due course? How do you get this special protection? It's not just about having the check in your hand. Oh no, it's all about how you got it. Let's break down exactly what you need.
Okay, so this table really shows the two core differences. A regular holder, they might have just been gifted a check. No value was really exchanged. But a holder in due course, they must get it for consideration, which is just a fancy way of saying they gave something of value for it. Money, goods, services, you name it. And even more important is the quality of the title. A mere holder is stuck. If the person before them had a bad title, well, so do they. But in HDC, they get a fresh start. The law basically wipes the slate clean.
And you don't have to take my word for it. This whole idea is captured perfectly in this famous line from Lord Denning in a classic case, Array Bank versus Ross. He basically described the legal magic of the HDC, this incredible ability to take a flawed instrument and hold it with a perfect right to be paid. It's this very principle that lets commerce flow with confidence.
Now, being an HTC isn't just a fancy title. It actually comes with a whole toolkit, a set of rights that give them real power, but also a set of duties they have to follow to keep that protected status. So let's take a look inside that toolkit.
The rights are, frankly, awesome. Of course, an HTC can hold the instrument and get their money, but the big one is they can sue in their own name if it gets dishonored. And get this, they're even protected if a signed blank check gets stolen and filled out later. To them, that inchoate or incomplete instrument is still perfectly valid.
But hey, it's a two-way street. With great power comes, responsibilities. The duties are all about acting in good faith. You have to physically have the document, be honest about it, and follow the right procedures. If a check bounces, you've got to let the other people in the chain know. And you can't just sit on it for years. You have to present it for payment within a reasonable amount of time.
All right, now we get to the really exciting part, the superpower. We're talking about the special legal privileges that make the holder in due course almost invincible. This is that legal shield in action.
So here's the bottom line. Once you qualify as a holder in due course, you are protected from most of the bad stuff that might have happened before that instrument got to you. Any claims that the check was lost or stolen or based on fraud or involves some sketchy deal, none of that can be used against you. It just bounces right off your shield.
Theory is one thing, but let's see how this incredible shield works in the real world. A case called Federal Bank versus PS Casco Limited gives us a perfect, clear-cut example of this principle playing out.
Okay, so here's what went down. Step 1. A company gives an employee a check meant to pay its workers. Step 2. The employee commits fraud and, puts the check into their own personal bank account. Step 3. The bank, acting totally in good faith and giving value for it, becomes a holder in due course. So what was the final ruling? The court said the bank was protected, the fraud from the employee was a prior defect, and it could not be used to stop the bank from getting its money. The shield held strong.
And get this, the shield is so strong, it even protects the HDC when a name on the check is completely made up. So if somebody writes a check to a person who doesn't even exist, that legal shield still holds up for a future holder in due course.
Now, this wild idea comes from another huge landmark case, Bank of England versus Vagliano Brothers. Basically, the court ruled that the person who drew up the instrument can't just turn around later and say to a holder in due course, "Oh, sorry, you can't cash that because the person I made it out to isn't real." Nope, they are stuck with their promise to pay. And the perks just keep on coming. The law actually presumes that a holder is an HTC. The burden of proof is on everybody else to prove they aren't. Plus, every single person who signed it before them is on the hook to the HTC for the full amount. And finally, this legal idea called estoppel kicks in, which basically stops the original parties from ever denying that the check was valid in the first place. It's like the law says, sorry, no takebacks.
Now, the HDC isn't the only protected person on the block. There's a close cousin we need to talk about, called the holder for value, or HFV. It's a different concept, but it's incredibly important, especially when you're talking about banks.
So what's the difference? It's subtle, but it's huge. Remember, the HDC has to personally give value for the instrument, and HFV, on the other hand, is just a holder of an instrument where value was given at any point in its past, even if it wasn't by them. The value is attached to the paper itself, not to the person holding it.
For a bank, this is super common. There are specific things that automatically turn them into a holder for value. For example, if your bank lets you take out cash against a check before it's officially cleared, or if they take a check and immediately use it to pay down your overdraft. Boom, they've just given value. At that exact moment, they become a holder for value.
And here's the kicker. When a bank becomes a holder for value by doing one of those things, the law says it gets the exact same powerful rights and protections as a holder in due course. They get the shield. And this is so important because it allows banks to offer us services like immediate credit on deposits with a lot more confidence.
Okay, we have been deep in the legal weeds here with case law and definitions and all that. So let's zoom out for a second and ask the big question. Why does any of this really matter in the real world?
The answer in one word is trust. This entire legal framework, the whole idea of the holder in due course, is the bedrock that our entire commercial system is built on. It's what makes sure that when you accept a check in good faith, you can be confident you're actually going to get paid. It turns a piece of paper into a reliable promise, and that's what allows money to move and business to get done.
But I want to leave you with one final thought. That powerful shield, it's forged from one essential ingredient, good faith. The holder has to be completely unaware of any past problems. But in our incredibly complex financial world today, what does it really mean to be without notice? How can we be sure? That's the question the courts are still wrestling with, and it's what keeps this centuries-old concept so fascinating and relevant today. Thanks for joining me.